Now, coming to tonight's session, please allow me to welcome Tarun Agarwala, the moderator of the session. Tarun is a growth and cross-functional specialist nurtured in information communication technology. He's currently the Chief Growth Officer at Eastomy Technologies and a researcher at Cultnetics that studies academic work and industry practices in the domains of neuropersonality, culture, values, and ethical technology. He's also an alumni of the Institute of Product Leadership. Great to have you here with us, Tarun. Handing the session over to you.
Thank you, Shama. Thank you so much for your gracious introduction. And congratulations to all our participants today for taking the time out to learn something. To me, you are already a winner. The best way to learn something is to ask beautiful questions. So don't wait till the end. Start typing in your questions in the Q&A tab, and yours truly will lend his voice to your questions. Well, our topic today is catalyzing change through storytelling. Do you know that all intentional change in this world ever brought about by humans has come to be by and only by the art of telling better stories? All great leaders, be it the Karta of your house or the CEO of your company or the leaders of our community, are all master storytellers. With the power of stories, children form their view of the world that transform into beliefs and serve as a bedrock for our motives as we grow up. With the power of stories, we can transform our dysfunctional belief systems to create habits and routines to reach our desired state in our life. And with the power of stories, we can influence decisions that create the world a better place for ourselves, our colleagues, our customers, and our partners. But to expand more on this and to help us learn how each of us can be inspirational leaders in our own right, we have amongst us a highly decorated motivational speaker and coach. But before I invite him to take the virtual stage, I have some questions for you, our participants, so that we can understand you a little better. Nothing fancy, simple 3 questions that I put them in a poll, which will go up on your screen sequentially now. The first question, simple. Where is that one big change you wish to make in your life? You can choose more than one option. Career it is, but then there are great answers towards your view of the world. Yes, any change starts internally and within your family as well. I'm glad to see that nobody is saying that I haven't really thought about it. Great. Next question. What do you think makes for a good story? No right or wrong answer, just your thoughts. All of them, all of them. Awesome. I think our audience is pretty mature to know what makes for a good story, and we learn from them through their questions. All right, next question, which is a simple one. Let us know, how long have you been working for? Wow, we have a lot of leaders amongst us already, and we have budding leaders. It looks like our future is going to be in safe hands after this session. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for participating and helping us know you better. Now it's time for me to invite our speaker, who, as I said earlier, is highly decorated with over 1.3 million subscribers on YouTube and growing. and upwards of about 50 million views on his inspirational videos. Our speaker has touched many lives across the globe, from students to large multinational corporations, inspiring them to take action on things that truly matter in their lives. In 2019, he earned the prestigious Global Excellence Award in motivational speaking. He has featured on the power list of top 200 thought leaders to follow in 2021, and 15 must follow diversity and inclusion global thought leaders by People Hum. An unconventional speaker. He helps leaders and organizations challenge their beliefs and thrive in a constantly changing environment while encouraging others like us to make bold course corrections in both our personal lives and our professional lives. Well, in his presentation today, you will find nuggets of wisdom from his own personal journey and as well as from his experience in coaching leaders on innovation, leadership, and self-growth. Well, what better way to introduce him than through this short video?
In one defining moment, the universe emerged out of nothingness like a bright idea. And so has each one of us. Born into this world, unique and gifted. A masterpiece, cast like never before and never after. A magnificent work of art. And each one of us an artist too, eager to paint the canvas of life. Remember as a child, you woke up each morning full of wonderful ideas and dreams. Dreams where everything was possible. You wanted to change the world and you believed that you could. Believed in superheroes and believed you could be one. And then it all slowly slipped away. But that does not mean that superheroes do not exist. These heroes stepped out of nothingness into greatness. They were ordinary folks who wanted to make a difference, who believed in their dreams. They were just like you and me, except where everyone else saw the rubble, they saw a palace standing. And when everyone else was enveloped with the darkness of self-doubt, they saw light within.
I am Simerjeet Singh, and I believe that the same light flickers in you and in me. I also believe that you have everything you need to reach the pinnacle of your success. And I'm here to tell you that the only person standing between you and your success, between you and your dreams, is you. And it can all change in the moment the voice inside you says, yes, I can. Yes, I can live with passion and purpose. Yes, I can lead. Yes, I can make a difference. I am the artist and the world is my canvas. I am the superhero I once believed in as a child. And that defining moment is now.
Very warm welcome to you, Simerjeet. The stage is all yours.
It's a pleasure to be here, Tarun, and thank you so much for having me. To the 70 odd people who've logged in Zoom, to the 70 odd people that we have on the Zoom webinar right now, and to others who are joining in on various social media platforms. Good evening to those of you in India, and good morning to those who might be in the United States. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I hope you guys have been learning from all the wonderful speakers that you've had in the past. Before I jump into today's keynote, I'd like to thank Shama for her coordination with my office. Plenty of emails going back and forth with Gitanjali and Chirag. I appreciate your help, guys. The short form of Institute of Product Leadership is IPL, and that's how the email address, I believe, also goes. So we've had these lot of my team members were thinking it's got to be something to do with the Indian Premier League, right? And it's a pleasure to be here. I hope I'll speak for about 20 minutes, and I hope a lot of you are ready with some good questions to win that $350 sponsorship, that the scholarship, I beg your pardon, that Tarun was talking about earlier, with some really good questions. Questions help us dive deeper into the subject matter today, and since we are on a virtual medium, I think you'll make the best use of that opportunity to go deeper into what I have to share with you, which is going to be the human aspect of change, catalyzed through storytelling, through a narrative, by influencing other people. I believe learning, my friends, is a contact sport. Learning is a contact sport. You cannot just be an observer and learn. You got to have contact, and stories are that wonderful medium to help you establish that contact. Raise your hands for those of you in the Zoom, or say yes in the chat window if you've ever, when you're watching a movie, if your emotions, if you were affected on a physical level just by watching what's happening in the movie, by looking at the visuals, by listening to the sounds, how the story's shaping out. Say yes, type in yes in the chat box if that has affected you at a physical level. If your heartbeat rate has gone up, if you've been sweating, or you're on the edge of your seat, or biting your nails, fantastic. Crying, I've got Gaurav is saying crying. Yeah, I do that too sometimes. So it's in a movie that's a bit emotional. I got to take a little pack of tissues. Tare Zameen Par says Gaurav. Yes, one of my favorites. And let me know as we begin this, kickstart this conversation, let me know in the comment section, what is your favorite movie so far? If you're talking about movies. One of my favorites has been Pursuit of Happiness by Will Smith. And that story helped me go through a very difficult period of my life. I think it was around 2000, 2007 and 8 when I left my career trajectory to do what I'm doing today. And Pursuit of Happiness by Will Smith was that one story I would go back to again and again and again. I even spent some time in San Francisco just visiting every site where this movie was shot, where Will Smith would sit by the Golden Bridge and other sort of places. Let's take a look at what your favorite movies are in the chat box. You've got Swades, Three Idiots, Sholay, Tare Zameen Par, same, which means Chak De India, Kesari, Gladiator. Wow. And they affect you at a deep level, helping you shape your life story as well. This, you pick up a few things and you absorb a lot that's happening. Interstellar, yes, of course, Tarun, I love Interstellar. And the haunting track, the music, the background score that goes with it puts me in a meditative thinking state every single time. So I believe we all agree that the storytelling, it's $1 billion business. Once upon a time, these words, so powerful to grab our attention, and Hollywood and Bollywood have done a wonderful job, making billions of dollars out of it, and they affect us. There's a new term that was published in the Harvard Business Review some time back. It was called soft power, and soft power was the influence of a culture through movies and through literature and through poetry and other things. Dead Poets Society, I love that too. Avatar, Dark Knight, Elysium, fantastic. A bunch of wonderful people here this evening. Let's give you a round of applause for all your interaction here. I really appreciate that. Great, 12 Angry Men. But the first thing I would, for leaders, when it comes to a leadership perspective, right, I want to make it very clear, Shama was also talking about, and Tarun was also talking about how powerful storytelling is. And I'm here to talk about that with you for the next 20 minutes or 20 or so minutes. But let's begin with this. Storytelling, my friends, is not a substitute for leadership, but a subset of leadership. Okay, a lot of leaders cross this line. It's a tool. It cannot replace the process of leadership. It's one of the mediums. And I would like to ask this wonderful audience, what is leadership all about then? What would a leader want to achieve? What are leaders there for? Let me know in the chat section, what is the goal of leadership? So we can determine what storytelling helps us with. To lead the people, okay, that's a little broad, but I like that. Can we narrow it down? Lead the people. What is the ultimate objective of leadership? Uplifting people, motivate, mentor, lead, to empower. Simply put, and all of your answers are correct, but simply put, I believe, is to take them where they've never been before. That's the most interesting process of leadership, to take people on a journey with you, not through intimidation, but by invitation, okay? So that we got to understand this, not through intimidation, but by invitation, to take them where they've never been before, right? And in the process, you take yourself somewhere where you've never been before. In the process, where you take the organization where the organization's never been before. So there, storytelling, my friends, is going to be a powerful tool for you. But that's what it is. It's a tool, no more than that. It's not a substitute. Good oratory, good communication skills, good presence, charisma, all of these things, they are not a replacement for good leadership. They are vehicles, and that's what they are. And this is what I believe. We're going to create a series on YouTube. We're currently in the process of writing the scripts and filming those videos, which will go by the hashtag stories that move. Now, the stories don't move themselves, but I hope that it will move the listeners to a better state of mind for self-introspection, right? I think Tarun asked you, he had this poll in the beginning wherein he asked you, what would you like, what is the end effect you would like to have through a good story? Components of a good story. Some of you had call to action, structure, etc., etc. One of the things I believe that a good story should do is to trigger self-introspection, okay? Because that's what I believe is the first step to change. If you're with me on this, please type it in the chat box. The first step to change is self-realization. The first step to change is self-realization. Type it in the chat box so I know you're with me so far. The first step to change is self-realization. Thank you, Karthik. The first step to change. Until you don't accept it, as long as you're in denial about something, you can't change, right? Whether it's a health issue, whether it's a time management issue, whether it's a financial issue, unless you accept that I have a problem here, you will never be able to trigger positive change in that direction. People change when they're ready. In fact, the Buddhists have this very powerful philosophy. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will emerge. When the student is ready, the teacher will emerge. Which means, by inference, if the student is not ready yet, you may present the best teachers, the best keynotes, the best stories, the best books, the best movies, but the student has a wall in front of him, right? And until that wall crumbles, nothing goes through, all efforts are wasted. Stories are exactly the vehicles that allow you entry past this conscious brain. You see, we're living in an era where we are flooded with information. You agree with that? We today have more information in a single day than our grandparents were exposed to in an entire lifetime. You're in agreement with that statement? We are exposed to more information, social media, newspapers, WhatsApp. This WhatsApp is different sort of storytelling going on WhatsApp every now and then. We have to investigate to find which ones are true. So not all stories trigger positive change. You got to keep this in mind. But a powerful story can evoke change. Now, whether that change is good or not, we don't know about it, right? That depends upon the content and the objective of the story. But WhatsApp has been such a powerful medium to influence what people think, right? Stories, I love this. And if you're looking for books to read on this subject, one of the most important is by Dr. Howard Gardner, who said, stories are the single most powerful weapon in a leader's arsenal. But I think it's important for me to re-emphasize that that's what stories are. They are a powerful weapon and nothing more. They're not a replacement for good leadership. Stories are not a substitute, but a subset of great leadership. Great leadership is way more. And this is why I'm repeating this again and again, because we fall for charisma. We fall for good orators. We fall for good stories. And leadership, my friends, is much more than that. By all means, we got to master all these domains, but also understand the end objective of leadership is taking people where they've never been before to a higher level, not by intimidation, but by invitation. Right? So with that agenda set, what stories do is this piece of research, which is on the screen, is very important to point out. During successful communication, what happens? The brains of the speaker and the listener are intertwined. They're what? Intertwined. So whatever's going on, they've discovered this during MRI scans also. When you're in great rapport with a good storyteller, whether it's an author who's written a gripping book, or you're watching a movie or listening to another storyteller or watching a video or whatever medium happens to be, these once upon a time, when it really has your attention, this is what happens. In MRI scans, the same areas light up in the speaker's brain and the same areas light up in the listener's brain. In other words, according to this research, they are temporarily coupled. And that, my friends, is the highest objective of great communication. When these brains are in the sync, when the same areas are lighting up, when the intent, what the speaker intended is how it's being received That's when magic of communication begins to happen, and stories are a very powerful medium to help you do that. In unleashing people power, because that's what the subject of today's keynote is, stories helping you unleash people power. I love what Ralph Waldo Emerson said. Our chief want is someone who will inspire us to be what we know we could be. So we know we can do better, right? Let's try the simple experiment. Take a deep breath in, inhale. Put your right hand up in the air and as high as you can. Come on, guys, you can do better than that. I wish we could have a few cameras on. Tarun and others, would you mind switching your cameras on, folks, just for a little interaction? Put your hands up as high as you can. Can you do a little better? I know, there's still margin. There's still margin. Shama, I know you could do better. Can we stand up and could we do that? Yes, yes, there's more margin? Is that it? Is that your best? All right. So type in the comments, please. There is always more margin for growth and improvement. There is always more margin. And sometimes what you need is a little trigger, just like me here in this situation, reminding you, guys, you can do it. You can do it. Take that little bit, go that little extra step. And I love what Ralph Waldo Emerson said. He said, our chief want is someone, some individual that we can look up to who will inspire us to be what we know we could be. So we already know deep down in our hearts that we can be better. A lot of you voted in the poll that was conducted at the beginning. You voted for, I want to improve my life and my career. Now, you know you can do it. That's why you're making that option, right? There's always more margin for growth and improvement. Thanks, Anna. But we need an external trigger, and that's where good stories come in. And you can be that person. You can be that person for yourself. Start by telling yourself a good story, okay? Right? I believe winners, they do two things differently. They're having better external conversations and better internal conversations. Because stories are what? They are self-fulfilling prophecies. That's what stories are, right? Stories are self-fulfilling prophecies. So if the story that you've always told yourself is, this is the best I can do, and I've accepted my fate in life, things never work out for me, people never like me, it's always the other person who gets the opportunities, I always miss out. That's the story you keep repeating to yourself. So start by improving the internal story, and then you'll also begin improving the external story. Growth is an inside-out process, my friends. Take a deep breath in, please. Inhale. And type this in the chat box now. Growth is an inside-out process. And type in, I will start by telling myself a better story. Start by telling yourself a better story. Growth is an inside-out process. Thanks Gaurav and Anna and Krishna and all these wonderful people. I will start by telling myself a better story. That's a great place to start. Akash says, I didn't understand internal and external. Akash, we're always having this self-talk, okay? That's what I mean by internal conversations. Your self-talk is so powerful. External is when you're dealing with other people. The quality of your internal communication impacts the quality of your external communication. If the internal conversations are all negative and garbage, chances are your external conversations are also going to be impacted the same. Now, you don't have control over external conversations, but you do have control over internal conversations. So you have a huge opportunity here, ladies and gentlemen, by impacting the world, by telling yourself a better story about yourself. I will start by telling myself a better story about me, who I am, how did I get here, where do I want to go, and how do I plan to get there. I am not a victim of my circumstances. I'm a conscious living being who makes powerful choices, and by virtue of those choices, I can change my life. So see a story like that, it puts you in charge of your fate, right? So start by the simple question, who am I? How did I get here? Now, a lot of people, when I ask them, how did you get here? Will start the victim story. That's the most dangerous story you can ever tell yourself, is the victim story. How did I get here, Simerjeet? Well, you haven't heard about my story, so on you go about all the negative things. Now, we've all been through the adversities of life, right? But start by telling yourself a better story. I love what Bana Fisher has typed in. My mantra for self-talk is, I am enough. I love it. It's, I think it's also one of the mantras for the lady I happened to interview in the Beginner's Mind series. And she, Marissa Peer from the UK, she talks about this. I am enough. I am enough. I love that mantra. And thanks, round of applause for this wonderful audience here. You're interacting in the comment section. I love your energy. Everyone has a hidden superpower and superhero, right? We all have we'd like to believe that. And what we need is somebody who can come to us and tell us, yes, you can, right? So this is where your opportunity is in terms of people leadership, is helping people discover their superhero. Did you know the word discover, if you hyphenate it, is made up of two words, dis and cover. Dis means to remove. So what a great story does, it helps you discover the superhero within you, which means dis the cover, remove the cover. A good story, a good narrative helps you remove the cover from your own greatness. And that's what your opportunity is. Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, said people want to be part of something larger than themselves. They want to be part of something that they're really proud of, that they'll fight for, that they'll sacrifice for, that they trust. Now this is the CEO of Starbucks talking about giving his people an opportunity to be a part of something larger than themselves. One of the briefings, the culture, one of the values at Starbucks is, we are not in the coffee business serving people, we are in the people business serving coffee. So just by repeating this narrative again and again, and they pick so many incidents and they share this across the world. In fact, the companies with some of the strongest customer service cultures rely very heavily on storytelling. Ritz-Carlton is one of those examples. One of the premier hotel companies in the world, they share customer service excellence stories in staff briefings across the world. So if one team member has excelled, has done something, has gone the extra mile, has lived up to the Ritz-Carlton value, they will create a little story out of it, and then they will circulate to briefings across the world, and wherever on this planet that briefing is happening, every team member will get to listen to that story to one of their own team members living the Ritz-Carlton values. That's how they reinforce culture through this, a very powerful medium, right? Type in yes if you believe there are pockets of excellence in your organization. There are pockets of excellence in your organization, and the companies that you're working for, in the teams that you're part of. Yes, 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 there are. Good storytellers and good leaders, what they do, they expose these pockets of excellence, okay? Say, let's go tell this story, others need to hear it. And that's indirect. And that's how it triggers change. The leader here is not sermonizing, is not preaching anymore. The leader here is saying, hey, look guys, here's one among you who's living the values. Here's one among you who is raising the bar, who is demonstrating this behavior. And because it's indirect, remember, the gatekeeper on the conscious brain already has too much gyan. It says no more gyan, no more sermons, right? But when a good story sneaks in, the gatekeeper says, come on in, you're allowed. It's VIP entry for stories. A good story always has VIP entry. Gyan does not, okay? So I wish I could, I will tell you more stories. So let's start by me telling, kicking off a little story to demonstrate this in action. Once upon a time, deep breath in. Type in yes if you'd like to hear a story. Let me wait for that. Anticipation, all right. Ancient Indian story, but I believe everyone will have powerful takeaways from this. It is said a rich man was very powerful, had only one daughter, father of only one beautiful daughter, and this goes back in medieval India, a long time back. And as a responsible father, he wanted to find the right groom for his daughter. If you're aware of how the Indian culture works, we had a process which was called Swayambar. Swayambar involved, it was literally a competition. The smartest, the wisest, the strongest man would win. And that is how daughters of royalty usually got married, a Swayambar would happen. Not the modern version of it, not the Rakhi ka Swayambar, but the ancient Swayambar. So this man, he announced a competition, a Swayambar. He said, the young man who will win this Swayambar will not only get the hand of my daughter in marriage, but also 50% of all my money on the spot. Good offer, yes or no? Let me know in the comment section. It's a good offer. Yeah? 50% of all his money as well as the opportunity to marry the daughter of this king, that is what the winner of this Swayambar would get. As per ancient Indian tradition, this story is a few thousand years old. So he announced a Swayambar, and as expected, thousands of young men turned up, eager. Some even married ones also turned up to see what the commotion was all about. Or maybe they heard a motivational speaker who told them, go outside your comfort zones. Okay, top 3 places that you can find a treasure trove of powerful, inspiring stories. Number 1, your own life experiences. Okay, including your own life experiences, my friends, are the richest source of the stories that you can tell. And Howard Gardner, he said it best in his book. He said, leaders influence through 2 tools. Leaders influence primarily through 2 tools. Number 1 is the stories that they tell. Number 2, the lives that they live. These are the 2 most powerful weapons that you have. The life that you lead and the stories that you tell. 2 powerful mediums of influencing. Among the top 3 places that I believe you can find a rich treasure of good stories to tell and influence the world, whether it's your team or your family or your competition, the world at large, whoever happens to be, number 1 is your own life experiences. In fact, we created an entire YouTube series with the hashtag SJS Life Stories. I've talked about how the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad rejected me. You know, that's a very popular story, how I spent time washing cars in Sydney. And I've got 600 something videos on YouTube, okay? And this is what happens. When I bump into somebody in the airport, I'm talking about, you know, the era when we used to bump into people in the airport. That doesn't happen anymore. In fact, I don't know, in the post-COVID era, will this be even an acceptable term to use? I bump into that guy into the airport. People are going to be like, show me your vaccination certificate, right? But when I would bump into people, the good old days when I used to travel a lot, I miss the good old days. And, you know, the talking point out of the 600 odd videos that I have on YouTube would be, I saw your Sydney car wash video. Or I know you were rejected from ISB Hyderabad, etc., etc. This stuff sticks with people. People relate to it. So your own adversities, your mistakes, your adventures, failures, rejections, accomplishments, I'm going to leave you with this assignment as we finish the keynote. Think about, write a journal, write every day what you're going through, and create a powerful message out of it, right? And then share it. And that's way better than sermonizing, way better than giving gyan. One of my favorite teachers in school was Professor Morris, back in St. Francis School in Batala in District Gurdaspur, the city that I grew up in. He taught history, one of the most difficult subjects, right? As well as a boring subject at times. But Sir Morris sir, made it most interesting. We used to look forward to his classes because he was such a powerful storyteller that we would be, all these little kids would be biting our nails, listening what he had to say. Type in yes if you've had a teacher like that in school. If you were lucky to have a good storyteller. Thanks, Gaurav, if you are, right? And you remember these folks after so many years. Thanks, Rahul, Madhuri, Sumana. You remember these folks. Out of all the other teachers, you remember the ones who were great storytellers. So go back into your own life. This is the first place that you will find a great resource of stories. Your adversities, mistakes. Now, you can't make all the mistakes yourself. Therefore, you have other people. So we'll move to that in the next section. But your mistakes, your adventures, your failures, your successes. In fact, one of the recent stories I've been telling in a lot of keynotes, especially about change and transformation, have been how I managed to transition from an on-stage, in-person keynote speaker to a virtual keynote speaker. I sort of am really suspicious of this term, virtual keynote speaker. But I'm still real, so I don't know why. Well, okay, virtual, whatever it happens to be. But this transition was very interesting, and has so many powerful lessons about adaptability and change, and that's what I like to share with my audiences, and people relate to it. So number 1 place where you can look for great stories is your own life experiences, and nobody can tell that story better than you, right? So Karthik, patience please. Yes, we will come to that. Number 2, your workplace. You'll have interesting. I had a wonderful boss when I landed in Dubai to work for the Grand Hyatt Hotel. So I didn't know, but when I was in the cafeteria having my lunch, a lot of people would say, oh, congratulations. They had this different look on the face as if, be careful, but congratulations, you're working with Mr. So-and-so, that's your new boss. So I was a little bit suspicious. So we turned that into a story, and you can find that on our channel, how perceptions shape reality. But your workplace, your past, your present, your ideal, the sort of workplace that you like to work in, workplace politics, folks going the extra mile or you going the extra mile, examples of service excellence, teamwork, empathy. This stuff will make for great stories. So again, get into the habit of writing a journal. Very, very powerful thing to do. Because you can record your own life experiences, whether it is your own personal adversities and challenges, or whether it is things that are happening among other people at the workplace. You can record it and turn them into powerful, learning, teachable experiences for other people, minus the gyan. Remember, gyan does not get entry in the conscious mind. Conscious mind rejects gyan. Stories always have a VIP pass beyond the conscious mind, directly into the subconscious, all right? Third great place is Folklore, Fables, Aesop's Fables, great Zen stories, popular media, like our friend Mr. Chopra, who's won the gold award, the gold medal in the Olympics, and what he went through, what's happening currently in the world around you, what's happening in Afghanistan, leadership lessons emerging there, why leadership failed, etc., etc. Be careful to stay away from areas which might cause people to get, emotionally very charged up. So if it's too recent and if it triggers a lot of strong emotions, I would be careful using it among a large group of people. But yes, what's happening around you at the world at this point of time? Great stuff for stories. People who've been through COVID experience, the world showed its best and worst faces during the COVID-19 pandemic. And that is great stuff for storytelling. Kaushik says, maybe that's why old education system was based on stories like Panchatantra. Yes, in the Indian culture, we've had this people sitting under the people tree in a village, and the elders would use to pass down wisdom to the youngsters through stories. Powerful medium, okay? Now, I don't know if folks can unmute themselves and participate. I would like somebody to read out point number 1 on the screen, please. Out of the 7 factors that will help your stories make an impact. Number 1 is, can someone unmute themselves and read point number 1, please?
Context.
Thank you. Context. I had a wonderful teacher at IIM Lucknow who's now the Dean of IIM Indore, Professor Himanshu Rai. He used to give this example so frequently. He said, the sentence, the door is open, can have multiple meanings in multiple contexts, right? The context changes the meaning of that sentence. Student comes up to him and says, I'd like to be an IAS officer. And he says, son, the door is wide open, right? Another one comes in and says, you're so boring. And he could say, son, the door is wide open. Another one comes in, sir, it's too cold today. It's chilly morning in Lucknow. It's because the door is open. So the same sentence, just because we change the context, has a different meaning. Surprise. Good stories have an element of surprise. So people getting really anxious about the Swayamvar story, wait till the end. Relatability. In a good story, you can put yourself in the protagonist's shoes, right? On great slides and great graphs, you cannot put yourself in the shoes of a great graph, but you can put yourself in the shoes of the protagonist of the story. Simplicity. Stories help you make complex things really simple. I think it was Einstein who said, any fool can make a simple thing more complex. It takes a genius to make complex things simple. I think Einstein also said, if you can't explain it simply enough, you don't know it well enough. And I love those words. This is a challenge to leaders. This is the challenge to anyone who's influencing. If you can't explain the thing simply enough to a layperson, you probably don't know it enough. You are hiding behind the jargon. Take a deep breath in, please. Inhale. And type this in the chat box. I will not hide behind the jargon. Type this in the chat box, please. Good storytellers. That's all. That's what all of you want to be. I will not hide behind fancy jargon. And this is what a lot of people, the more education they have, they like to hide behind, oh, this is the strategy that we are following. Break it down. Don't hide behind the jargon. People who don't understand your jargon, that's a great place for you to hide behind that jargon. But that will not help you bring about the change that you want to, right? Commit to yourself. I will not hide behind jargon. I will simplify things, right? You with me so far? Hey, Gaurav Gupta is magic fingers. First one to respond always. Round of applause for you, Gaurav. Number 5, stickability. Stories, they stick with you, okay? Just like my ISB rejection story, my Sydney car wash story, or so many stories that you've heard, Tell me in the chat box, what's the one, all these moral science stories that we've heard in school. Tell me in a one-liner, something that you still remember today. I remember the greedy dog, the one who looked staring at himself in the pond, and he grew envious and jealous of the other dog who also had a bone in his mouth, and he started barking at him and lost his own bone. I remember the greedy. Birbal ki khichdi, says Gaurav. Okay, great. Tell me in one line if you still remember a childhood story and the moral of it in a one-liner, please, in the chat box. A hare and tortoise story. Fox that stole the vada from crow. Okay, right, of course. And see, it's been several years, decades perhaps, that you came across these stories. Gitanjali says, ye waqt bhi guzar jayega. Yes, it's been several decades, perhaps, that you first heard these stories. You still remember them. That's the power. Stories stick, right? Number 6, my friends, really important. Credibility. Credibility. Who is delivering the story? I started off by saying stories are not a substitute, but a subset of leadership. But if you're using stories as a substitute for leadership, you will lose your credibility. And once you lose your credibility, even if your message is true and accurate, people stop believing you. Guard your credibility at all costs, please. This is a very powerful thing. Who is narrating the story, all right? Who is this person? If I doubt him, I'm not going to listen to the story. Again, the VIP entry pass is canceled, right? I got to trust this person. He must be credible. Can someone unmute themselves and read point number 7, please, which is very powerful?
Delivery.
Welcome back, Shama. Delivery, right. Delivery is key. Are you believing in that story yourself? You could mess up in, a good story in your delivery. But if you practice enough, and this is what I'll say to everybody who wants to become a great storyteller, excellence comes at a price, okay? You want to be a good communicator, it's going to come at a price. And the price that this thing asks for is practice. So find the next opportunity. Maybe it's your child, maybe it's the children in the park, maybe it's your team members, maybe it's the club, the Toastmasters, wherever you happen to be. Use that opportunity. The more you practice it, the better you will get. And I say this again, you can mess up a wonderful story by poor delivery. And by great delivery, you can convert an ordinary story into something very powerful. Okay? So, I don't know, what's a great way to recap these points? Can we type them in, please, from 1 to 7 in the chat box? Or let's do it this way. Type in your favorite one out of the 7. Type in your favorite one out of the 7 factors that help your stories make an impact in the chat box, please. Okay? Got simplicity, relatability, simplicity, context, credibility, surprise. Fantastic. Stickability. In fact, for stickability, I would like to recommend this book to you. A few book recommendations before we throw it open to questions. One is Made to Stick, guys. Lovely book. Made to Stick. Authors are brothers Chip and Dan Heath. Made to Stick. Powerful principles about how information sticks. how people retain information. Two great books on business storytelling, both of them by a gentleman I personally admire, founder of Starbucks, Howard Schultz. And he narrates the Starbucks story in this and his journey of founding this empire. Pour Your Heart Into It is the first one by Howard Schultz. And then the second part of it is called Onward, again by Howard Schultz. Very powerful entrepreneurial journey, the evolution of one man's dream into a large multinational corporation. Okay, great. Let's get back to our presentation here. You can unleash the power of effective storytelling to, number one, reinforce organizational culture and values. As the Ritz-Carlton example that I shared, or the Starbucks example, or even in India, there's anybody from Madurai here? Let me know in the chat section if you're from Madurai, or if you've heard. Oh, hi, Madhuri from Madurai. If you've heard of Suresh, fantastic. The Arvind Eye Hospital, yes, Vijay, that's what I was going to talk about. The Arvind Eye Hospital in Madurai. And it's a great case study in shaping the culture of an organization. And storytelling by leaders has been a powerful medium to influence change. So one thing that stories do for you, help you reinforce your organizational culture and values. Number two, they help you do what? Can someone please unmute themselves and read it out for me? Number two.
Okay, it's going to be me again. So number two is challenge self-limiting beliefs.
Yep. This is a powerful thing for leaders because indirectly you are catalyzing self-introspection. If a certain belief is holding an employee back, through a powerful story, you are challenging that chain that is holding that person back. Through a good story, you're offering a medium to challenge their self-limiting beliefs. Anna says we don't have access to microphones, so sorry about that. Okay, and yes, Tata Hotels as well. Yes, Deepak, thank you for mentioning that. In fact, there's a TED Talk. I'll see if my colleague can share the link with you for others to watch also. And how the Taj Hotels culture helped them rise to the occasion of what is now a case study in Harvard School on cultural values, or how the staff responded to the terrorist attacks when they happened. So yes, TVS Motors as well, great Indian example. In fact, all of the Tata companies. And I think even in small teams, even in small and medium enterprises, this is your number one weapon to influence and to, so when I say weapon, not to help, not to ask people to do something that they don't want to do, but to reinforce what's already been said, that they know it, you know it, but here's a different way to look at it, and to increase that curiosity and desire to do it. Inspire self-reflection, that's another thing that good stories help you do. So, I could talk, yes, Murthy, sure, we'll put the book names here in the chat box as well. I could do a 2 days workshop on thoughts have power. Okay, I've been a professional speaker and a coach for 14 years now. I can easily do a 2-day workshop on just this simple subject: thoughts have powers. But let's see if I try to get the same message across through a story. Let's see how that plays out. Okay, and what things you might be able to pick up in storytelling. Thoughts have power. And I'll say, once upon a time, my friends, I used to live in a small city in Batala, district Gurdaspur. I was born in this border town, very small town. And our only window to the outside world was not Microsoft Windows. We had the Tribune, which was an English publication in North India. That was one. And then my parents had a subscription to Reader's Digest, a wonderful magazine. Now, living in this dusty little town in North India, growing up there, my parents wanted to ensure we have the best of the information available. So for my birthday, I used to order books from Reader's Digest. And this one would be my favorite, with a little sticker on top. As you can see, it was the guide to the places of the world. I wanted to know about the rest of the world. So as a little child, I'm talking grade 5th, grade 6th, after my exams would be over, etc., I would pick up this book and just browse through different countries. And it had information about demographics and capitals and beautiful pictures, and I used to love just browsing this book. And one particular picture that fascinated me every time was of this beautiful country called Jordan. Pictured here is one of their national monuments called Petra. Anyone been to Petra? Let me know in the chat box, please, if you've been to Petra. Historical place, beautiful place. So this used to draw my attention a lot. And as a little kid, I used to visualize someday I'd like to go there, maybe not consciously, but at a subconscious level. I used to look at this one. There was some connection to this. Yes, Indiana Jones, Srinidhi, some part of it has been shot here too. So this is me as a young kid looking at this image and visualizing. And fast forward 23 years of telling myself good, positive stories about life is good and good things happen to me, etc., etc. One fine day, I'm invited by a financial services company to give a talk to their global leaders. It's a global leadership retreat down in South India. We've had country heads from 34 different countries this company had presence in. And one of them happened to be the country head of Jordan, who also happened to be the best friend. Stay with me here. The best friend, his best friend used to was running a training company in Jordan. He really liked my presentation. So when he goes back to Jordan, I get an invitation in my email, says, would you like to come to Jordan to deliver a leadership program? And I said, of course, yes, right? So not only did I get to go to Jordan, not only did I get paid for going to Jordan, not only did I fly business class, all expenses paid, but I also got enough time to visit my favorite place, which was Petra, right? The interesting part here is, look at this image carefully on the left. This is the same building that I used to look at as a little child in my favorite book, Guide to the Places of the World. The same building. Thoughts have power. Thoughts have power. It gave me goosebumps to realize when I came back home to take this picture and compare with my other one. Right? I was about to leave Petra until an Arab guide said, hey, have you seen that monastery? You should not miss the monastery. It's half a day's trek, but it's worthwhile. And this is where this photo was taken. Right? Thoughts have power. What goes on here, you bring it into your reality. So I demonstrate the same point using a personal story now. Right? This is a different way of looking at it, and I hope it was able to drive the message across that I wanted to. So as we close, I would like to ask you, what's your story? And don't tell me you don't have one, because you've been through a lot. You've been through ups and downs. You've been through good and bad. You've been through moments that you can laugh at yourself. You've been through moments that you perhaps feel guilty about. But take life as a lesson and help others learn from you. Take what you've been through and convert it into a powerful learning experience for others, right? And I would leave you on this note. As you finish, do two things, please. Start writing a journal. If not a daily, write a monthly one of what went right in this month, what didn't work out well in this month, so that when you look back, when you close the year, there's a lot of information to go through. And see, are there teachable moments here? Can I share with other people what to do, what not to do? Can I help them? Can I share my success strategies? Can I share my own disappointments? Can I share my vision for the future? How can I influence others? So the most powerful story, my friends, that you will ever tell is from your own personal life experience. Think about that as we close this discussion here today. And before we go, you must be wondering, what happened with the Swayambar? Responsible old man wanted to find the right groom for his daughter. Announced the Swayambar, thousands of young men turned up. But nothing in life is free. This competition too had a catch. They all gathered around a huge pool. And the old man announced the first young man to jump in from this side and emerge alive from the other side will be the winner and will be my son-in-law. Not only will he get to marry my daughter, but also 50% of all my money on the spot. But there was a catch. This pool was full of alligators. But as soon as he'd announced it, he heard a loud splash. One young man had already dived in, and the whole crowd was cheering for him. Yes, yes, you can do it. He was swimming with all his might. And guess what? He emerged on the other side. Not a scratch on his body. Not a scratch on his body. So the old man rushed to greet him. He said, well, son-in-law, welcome to the family. He said, sir, hold it right there. There's been a huge confusion. I don't even like your daughter. I'm myself a married man. I just came to check what this noise is all about. But at this point of time, I'll talk to you later, but at this point of time, I just want to find out who pushed me into the swimming pool. Who pushed me into the swimming pool? In your life too, you get two choices. Either to wait for life to push you in the pool when you're not ready, or to push yourselves every day. Pushing yourself may be painful, but it's a way better option than doing nothing and standing on the edge and waiting for life to push you, waiting for change to push you. Thanks for sticking around to figure out what happened with that story. And Gaurav, thank you for killing the suspense of that story in the chat section. You're like a naughty teenager who watches a nice movie and then takes the parents along, say, come on, let's watch the movie again together. When the parents go there, he's always telling the parents, I know what's going to happen next. I know what's going to happen. I'm only joking, buddy. But thank you. Gaurav Gupta's been magic fingers. And Rimi, thank you so much for your comments as well. As we close, I'll leave you with some additional learning material. For those of you who want to really take a deep dive into the subject of leadership, my colleague Chirag will share with you in the chat section a link for a keynote. You will hear me sharing stories live with the audience around the subject of leadership. I hope you can take something away from that. Thank you, Animita Raghunand, Banafshe, Ashita Jain, and everybody else who's been so kind to interact. Karthik, Ajit, Gaurav Gupta, you guys been a wonderful, wonderful audience. Over to our panelists for questions that we might have.
Hey, Simerjeet, this was an incredibly energetic speech, and I think lots of good stories. And I think I wasn't wrong in saying that there's going to be lots of nuggets of wisdom from your personal life and experiences throughout the 14 years that you have been coaching leaders. I have 1.5 page full of information that I could gather.
We'll be here till the morning.
I'm not sure which one is my favorite, but if I have to maybe pick one, I would say have the habit of writing a journal. You mentioned that twice, and I cannot stress enough on that. And I think writing helps, and I'm personally a fan of fountain pens because it just gets you motivated to write something using something, mm-hmm. right? So I write, and I would urge all our listeners today that while you have all probably been nurtured in the age of typing a lot, use a pen and paper and write down your journals. Mm-hmm. It will help you think. We will share the names of the books for sure. Tons of questions, and I really cannot make up my mind on which ones to take, which one not, being judicious with your time. But let me take a few. Madhuri asks, which is, I think a lot of people would have this kind of a question on their minds. Wouldn't narrating authentic stories of your own life come with its own challenges or consequences? How do you resolve that?
It would, and you have to be mindful of that. So let's explore all the different dimensions. One is going to be vulnerability. Narrating a story of your own life is going to make you vulnerable for a lot of things. This guy didn't make it through ISB, and now he's creating a story out of it, right? And you probably did not score high enough on the GMAT, etc., etc. And yes, of course, you're opening yourself to all of those perspectives. But this is what a good storyteller does. You control in which direction you want to take the attention to. And yes, people are, have the liberty to think about what they want to think about. But a good storyteller it helps people concentrate their attention in the direction that is going to serve you so that you can drive that point home. Madhuri, yes, the answer is it does open you up to multiple other inferences. People can perceive it differently. But if you do it well, you will minimize people's attention on the unwanted areas and maximize it into the direction that you want to take. I think it's a risk worth taking because as a leader, it shows your human side.
Sure. So it's know your audience, craft it, and know what to say, what not to. But end of the day, your vulnerability will anyways bring people closer to you. Our next question is by Lieutenant Colonel L. Sriharsha. Well, this question is, do you feel that pushing and nudging is essential after storytelling to ensure that the desired results are attained? Yes, no, what are your views?
So I've had multiple views on this. My NLP trainer said, absolutely not. He would never say a line after the story closed. So say, for example, I shared the swimming pool story with you or any other story during the course of this presentation. He would finish at the punchline and that would be it. I do, and this I think largely depends on your audience, and I think you, with time, you're able to sort of put your finger on the pulse and figure out, are they going to be able to decode the message as I want it? So earlier I used to follow the advice of my trainer and not utter a single sentence, but then I discovered, hey, people are going, it is great to send people on a quest. But what if there are some situations where you want them to look at this particular thing this way as a leader? And in that situation, I will put it in the middle and I will not use it for introspection. I'm using it as a vehicle to drive home a point deeper into their mind. So it is situational and it also depends upon your audience as well.
So a good story in itself would be a nudge.
Yes, in fact, yes, it would be. Now, does it move people into the direction that you want them to or not? This is something you have to decipher through a little conversation. So as a safety net, when you want a tight, precise, sharp message out, I would put a few sentences in to ensure that, yes, it has gone in the right direction. It's been perceived, it's been decoded the way I wanted it to be.
Sure. And obviously, we have Gaurav Gupta, who asks, how to make myself that person? It's a pretty tricky situation to be in. How to make myself that person who is required to inspire myself? So it's a catch-22.
Well, Gaurav, all I would say is spend some time every day writing down and visualizing the ideal person that you'd want to be. This, for me, has been such a huge tool, especially during the pandemic, Tarun, because, Feb 2020, I used to travel 20 days in a month, and I've not traveled a single day in the last 18 months. And I often joke about this. I say, I haven't been so regular in my school or in my college. Never ever I have been so regular for anything as it has been showing up for work every day during the pandemic. And how I manage that, and Gaurav, that's my answer to your question, is create a future pull for yourself. Write down, sit and write down today. How do you see yourself maybe 3 months from now, 6 months from now? How do you look like? How do you speak? How are the financial circumstances? How's your daily life going? How's the health? Write it down, put some nice piece of music on and visualize it. And that will help you keep in touch with the story, because the world is going to tell you a different story, right? And you will have a lot of conflicting evidence. No, I can't be that person. But if you believe it in here, and if you hold on to it, you'll get there.
Cool. Can we take one more question?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. So Kaushik asks, how to ensure that the internal conversations that we have with ourselves is on the right track?
Okay. 2 or 3 things, Kaushik. One is gratitude. To improve the quality of your internal conversations, I do it monthly, some people do it daily, but I spend time at the end of every month writing down what has worked well for me in this month, what happened that had not happened before. And I pick the tiniest of things, Tarun. We bought a new mic, let's put that in. We did our first, storytelling shoot, or we're shooting this new series, or we had this, etc., or we have a new landmark, or whatever it is. I write it down, and I meditate on it, and I put them on a glass jar. 31st December, I'm going to pick that glass jar and open it and tell the story to myself again. Life is good, and I'm heading in the right direction. So you need to take charge, Kaushik. That's what you need to do, because left to itself, the human brain is going to drift towards the negative. Psychologists call it the missing tile syndrome. We are wired to focus on what's missing. You walk into a nice auditorium and there are thousands of tiles on the floor, but if right bang in the middle one tile is missing, immediately all your attention will be focused on that one tile. And you'll forget about everything else and you'll be like, why is this tile missing? Such a nice auditorium, why would they leave it out, right? Your brain is wired to move into that direction. To take charge, you just need to exercise mentally as we do physically, right? Sit down, focus on what's working well. Learn to tune out of negative conversations that might be happening in the outside world also. That means reducing your time on social media. I'm currently reading this book called Deep Work, and that is sort of repeating what I already know in a beautiful way, and I am drastically cutting down my time on social media. And in the process, Tarun, we've written such powerful new scripts for videos that will be out on our YouTube channel shortly, and I've never had this amount of creative productivity in the past. So you need to control the inflow, Kaushik, of what you're letting in, and you also need to control the outflow, as in what are you focusing on. Whatever you focus on, it becomes bigger. So be careful in making that choice. That's all.
And go back to your journal. I think that mantra is going to work all the time.
It will.
All right. Before I let you go, we'll announce the best question and who wins the scholarship. But before that, if I can ask you this:
In one defining moment, the universe emerged out of nothing.
Okay.
Sorry for that.
That's okay.
No problem. Okay, so that's our cue, basically, Simerjeet, to wrap up. So if there is one activity that you would want our participants to do after they exit this session so that they don't forget most of the things that they have learned today, what would that activity be?
Okay. I'll be greedy and I'll say 2, not 1.
Please.
One is to take the information from this and share it with another. Okay? Maybe social media post, tag me if you do that. Create a little video, YouTube shorts, Insta short, go and deliver a small presentation with your team, a virtual presentation, whatever, whatever you fancy, whatever works best for you. This is number one thing, I think, for you to understand the concepts. Take what you've learned, simplify it further, and share it with others. Number 2, I would want you to do the what's my story exercise, which is, if you were to reflect on your life, adversities, mistakes, failures, embarrassments, successes, and accomplishments, if you've been asked to create 10 videos or 10 blog posts or 10 LinkedIn posts on lessons you have learned from your own life, what would those 10 chapters be? Where in your own life would you like to go back? And would you like to give them a new closure? Let's see that. Let's say, for example, there are unhealed wounds from the past, there are regrets, there are missed opportunities, and there's a lot of negativity that you're carrying. Can you now reflect on it and close it with a positive takeaway? Can you now look at that episode from a different light and put a closure and create a story and perhaps offer some wisdom and inspiration to the world through it? That'll be my second assignment for you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, nothing sticks better than teaching someone else and taking a public vow that you're going to do that. So making a social media post is that public vow. So I would definitely urge everybody, including me, to go ahead and do that. And what's my story exercise? That's a great exercise to do. Takes you back to the journal. So Simerjeet, is there any question that we asked you that sticks with you that you think should be the winner of the scholarship?
Tarun, now you never told me you will put it across to me to pick the winner. I wasn't paying attention. All of them were great questions. So you want me to pick one?
I think, Tarun, you go ahead and pick the best question.
Yeah, Tarun, let's do that. Yes, because you were more
All right.
in the moment at that point of time, listening to those questions. So I think you'll do better justice.
Yeah, I think it's a really tough spot to be in and to make that kind of a choice. But I think Madhuri's question, I found that to be a little powerful in terms of, kind of coming out of those limitations in our own hearts, that if we narrate our stories, would it come with challenges and consequences? So then in that case, what to really do? So I think Madhuri's question was...
Madhuri,
was
congratulations.
Congratulations, Madhuri. We'll get in touch with you with the Marshall Scholarship Award shortly.
All right, and let's close our session today by saying thoughts have power.
Thank you, Tarun. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate this very thoughtful virtual certificate of appreciation as well. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Simerjeet, for your time and for the brilliant and engaging session. The Keynote was captivating with amazingly relevant and useful insights.
Thank you, Shama.
I'm sure
You've
the
been very
audience would
kind.
agree to that. We have enjoyed having you with us, Simerjeet. It's been a complete pleasure. Please accept this certificate of appreciation, a small gesture from the Institute. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your insights and experience with us. It's been amazing. So
Thank
if
you
you
so
scan
much,
the
guys.
QR code on the screen, it will take you to a dedicated Hall of Fame page that we have created for you, which will hold the recording of this session.
Woohoo! Thank you.
Thank
Made
you
my
once again
day.
for joining us, Simerjeet.
All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye now. Take care. Bye.